How's it going? Back, Travel Chronicles. We're going to call this, I think it's around chapter 30-ish, if I'm looking at it. So, a couple of big things. One, we had I had the emergency edition where I kind of covered some stuff that happened during the storm. So that finally, they got the electricity back on. They just pulled the cable back, pulled it out underneath, and spliced it, I guess, and got the power back on. So that was sometime probably early Saturday. I didn't find out about it until late Saturday, so I couldn't come out and mow. Tried to come out Sunday, which was yesterday, and it poured the rain down before I could mow. So we ended up, Faith and I, getting the limbs and the tree out of the yard. Didn't bring my chainsaw, so I had to cut it with the axe. Took a little longer, but makes the arms a lot more sore. And the good thing is that I didn't have to have my brother come over and move it, because if he'd have done that, he'd have tore up the whole yard. So that worked out, because that's what he did last time. Because he'd have had it out of there in about 5 minutes, but it would have destroyed the yard. So I don't care if something takes a little bit longer if it doesn't create another problem. That's solving a problem by creating another problem is not fixing a problem. Sorry, it's not how that works. So the other good stuff that's going on is, at work, my boss that's on vacation decided to call in and started giving instructions, but instructions that were heard didn't make any sense. Instead of distilling like an extra 0.5% over, somehow it got translated to 10% over, which could have been disastrous had they done what she said. But so just, if you're on vacation, you got to communicate through one person. It's like, I learned this lesson from one of Faith's coaches. He's a good guy. He's a good coach of basketball, getting points across and stuff. And, his thing was, there's one voice in the huddle. There's one coach that's giving direction. If you want to say something, like, he'll either ask you to say it, or you get with the coach beforehand and go over, what's going to be said in the huddle. And it's a super smart thing. That way, the coach is giving direction. Everybody's on the same page. If there was a discussion, you had it beforehand. You're not questioning the coach in the huddle in front of the players. So the players are listening to one voice. They're hearing one voice. Everybody's on the same page, and the kids can go out and execute. And it's the same thing in the workplace. If one boss is telling them to do one thing, another boss is telling them to do something else, what do we do? Then it's just mass confusion. Then, one person's voice, doesn't matter, and they're kind of taken out of it, or, they feel like their voice doesn't matter, so then they get disconnected, and this whole thing, the town hall meeting and stuff that we had last week was about being connected and being engaged. And that is one surefire way to get people to not be engaged, is to go over their head. It's a little ridiculous. So that kind of miffed me a little bit. The other thing was, I'm in there 10 o'clock at night. Actually, it ended up being 11. I didn't get home till 1 o'clock, so I guess it was probably close to midnight before I left. But, I was there, left, came back, trying to get stuff working, got stuff back up, and not, oh wow, hey, great job, thanks for coming in, appreciate the effort. It was, we need to run more. We need to make more stuff. And it was like, are you kidding me? And it's just a complete and total failure of the system that, one, we don't have inventory, so that if something like this catastrophic does happen, we're screwed. We're missing orders, because we haven't realized that we don't have inventory, and there's no fallback plan. So that's a failure. The other failure is the scheduling, that you let it get to that point to where you have to run in order to meet these orders. So yeah, it's great. It's super, lean and all Six Sigma and all the buzzwords and efficiency and that's all great. But the bottom line is you've got to be able to make these things from a plant standpoint. And part of the problem is when you report that our KPIs and our OEE is 99%. Okay, well, we're going to put it on you then, because you don't have any problems. You never show any failures, and we're not we're not adequately recording those failures, those downtimes. So we're not taking the dings like we should. If we want to run, it runs. Okay, but there's a lot of downtime built in there where we're doing other stuff, and if all of a sudden you gotta run, you better not have a problem. Because all these other times where you're fixing pumps and making changes and moving stuff around, you don't have that time, So that's what we were into. But that's just one thing. The other thing that's out there now is COVID. Still out there. Still prevalent. And the tests have skyrocketed. Like early on, I said we'd probably peak in the 30,000s, which was close. I think we maybe peaked at like 35. And part of that was based on how Italy had done it. And, I think they got hit from both sides. Like I said, East and West. And it was kind of an unknown to them. And I think we got hit really before the testing took off, before there was widespread knowledge of what was going on. I think there was a hit here. But I was basing that peak on, Italy's population relative to our population and how it kind of hit. And the U.S. being more spread out, it probably should have been a little bit less, but we do have some large population centers. And when they get hit, then that number is going to go even higher. So what you're seeing right now is just a crazy spike of cases in the large populated states, Florida, Texas, California. But you're not seeing the death toll rise with it. It started to come up a little bit this weekend. We reached 1,000, almost 1,000 deaths a day. At our peak before, we were at 2,500. So, okay, if we lose 1,000 people a day, that's 360,000 deaths a year. But, that's not a sustained number. That's like one day a week. You're getting close, and then the weekly numbers kind of look like a hump where it's real high on like a Tuesday, coming out of the weekend. Like Sunday, Saturday is kind of low, just because you don't have the people in there getting all the numbers, reporting everything. But now these numbers, right? The other thing is these numbers are skyrocketing, and you got to really question: are they that bad? Because you haven't seen an outbreak like this anywhere. Nowhere has it broken out like this on this scale. Even Brazil, I think, was maybe like 40,000 a day, but they have 2/3 of the population, so they're not more populated than us by any means. And the U.S. is testing like crazy, and my contention is, the government has put stuff out there to get tests, for these hospitals to test people. They probably do so many tests, they get so much of federal grant or some federal funding. So they're going to test. We're going to run these tests. And we start running a bunch of tests, guess what? You're going to find cases. So, and I don't know what the numbers are. I can only imagine at this point, but it has to be, you test so many people, you show so many positives, it's a certain thing, then you're getting so much money, and so many people are in ICU, you get so much, or so many beds are tied up, you can apply for this funding. So believe me, these hospitals know what this number is. But the crazy thing is now, and I've heard multiple reports of this, is people that are dying, of natural causes, heart attack, heart disease, lost a battle with cancer, getting marked down as COVID. It's like, but maybe they didn't have it. Maybe they haven't had any complications with COVID. And it's just like, nah, you're going to mark it down as COVID or you're going to be fired. That's kind of sketchy. But, when you're hearing it from multiple people, that's what makes you take pause and say, I wonder if these death rates are right. Well, if the death rates aren't right, so right now the numbers are just off the chart. So before, if we had stopped COVID in its path, the deadly nature of COVID, we would have been at about a 5% death rate. Well, now with the increase of cases, now we've had more cases than we've ever had, less people dying from it. Now you're looking at a death rate of less than 1%. Okay, that's horrible if everybody gets it, but still everybody's not getting it. You're looking at a total case count of, I have no idea. To be honest, is it 2 million? Is it 3 million? I mean, it have to get to 3 million. That's 1% of the population is showing signs after being tested after 6 months, like 3.5 months of really good, hey, we know it's out there, quarantine, keep yourself away, get tested, this, that, and the other. Part of the other problem is, when do you get tested? If you have symptoms, all right, what's a symptom? Okay, fever, all right, cool. What if your throat hurts? You get tested then. What if you have a headache one day? Joints are a little sore. I don't know where it ends. And okay, so you go get the test. Well, now these tests are only 85% accurate. So that means 15% of the tests are inaccurate. And part of that 15% is false negative, false positive. So if it's split, let's just say it's split, and it's probably worse towards the false positives, but let's say it's 10 false positive, 5 false negative, right? So 85% of people are being identified accurately. You got 10 being misidentified as having it that don't have it, and 5% that have it that aren't getting identified. So 90% of your population, or the people that go, actually have it. 10% don't have it. Right. No. Yeah. Well, that's the accuracy of the test, of people that test it. No, yeah, that would be the people that show up that have it. So everybody that's showing negative, I'm not sure. But 85% is not a good number. Like, you need to be 99% accurate on these tests. And I'm not sure what the rate normally is. Like, oh, look, you have the flu. Okay, may or may not have it. What's that percent? But being only 85% accurate, if somebody goes where I work right now to get tested and they show up and it shows up positive, we're down. We're shut down. Like, we can't survive. Everybody being on quarantine, being off. We're down. And then what do we do with the schedule? All right? It's going to hit. Somebody there is going to test positive. Somebody's going to have a fever, and they're going to have to go get checked. And then we're done. We are done. And you just sit back and just, oh man, I hope it's not me. But But the other side of that is, well, all these people are testing positive, but we're not seeing the death rate. So is this close to the flu? Well, you don't want people who are at risk to get it. Cool, I understand that. If you have it, if you're sick, stay away from those people. If you know somebody that's sick, you don't go around those people. You know, I mean, just kind of common sense type stuff. But if the effects aren't, you know, life-ending, you know, it's not a 10% death rate. All of a sudden it's, you know, less than 1%. It's the flu, and I got a 17-year-old son at home who's going to be a senior. He wants to go do senior things. He wants to go out. He wants to go with his buddies. He wants to go on trips. And it's like, buddy can't let you. And because you know, you got to err on the side of caution a little bit. You know, if everybody says, hey, we're just going to go for it and we'll see what happens, and then cool, let's do it. But when a government's like, oh no, you need to wear a mask everywhere you go, inside you got to have a mask on, we're mandating it. Okay, well, that's going to give you some pause. Is that the right thing to do? Don't know. That's just how crazy things are right now. And it's to me, nobody is going to say in an election year, hey, we were wrong, it turns out it's not that bad, you can go about living your life like you were. And if you get sick, it's probably not the end of the world, especially if you're a young person. You know, if you're older, you want to seek treatment, you want to keep yourself isolated. That's it. I mean, you're right, this thing was supposed to die out in the summer. It didn't, clearly. But how bad is it? Like, most people are asymptomatic. They're going to be the super spreaders. You know, oh, we're going to do contact tracing, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And, you know, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, well, is it worth it? Is all this, what are we gaining here? What are we gaining? Oh, we don't want people to die. Okay, well, people aren't dying at the rate. And we're attributing maybe some deaths that aren't really COVID to COVID. You know, it's like we're doing the complete opposite of what China did, right? Like, China didn't tell anybody what it was. And then when it comes out, it's like, oh my goodness, we got to be scared out of our minds. And now the U.S. is reporting everything under the sun is COVID. So it's, you know, it's quite the dichotomy. China doesn't have any cases, hardly any deaths. Whereas America, we've got all kinds of cases. And we showed all kinds of deaths to start with. And now it's kind of slowing down. I don't know if they're being more stringent. It makes you wonder if they're being more stringent. It's like, well, was it really a COVID death? Like, we need to see the positive test now. Positive test showing that they had COVID, not just you saying it's COVID. It's like, you know, you better have some proof. And maybe people aren't able to back it up, is why you're losing some of those numbers. That would not surprise me one bit. So, all right, well, that's a lot for today, for a Monday in July. But pretty crazy weekend, pretty crazy stuff going on. And, you know, I want to get back to normal. You know, I want to, okay, if wearing a mask, fine, I'll wear a mask. But, you know, don't tell me that, oh, if you get it, now you're done. You can't do anything. You know, it's, you know, just be honest. You know, but I think we're so far gone we can't even be honest with ourselves. That's a problem. All right, either because of politics or just blatant stupidity. All right, well, I'll see you later. Stay COVID free as much as you can.